What was missing? Like nothing really. A few years ago, a friend of mine actually recommended me this manga, and I read about 30 to 40 chapters before I happily put it on hold, and I then picked it up as an anime this year in this anime season. As a manga reader, I loved it, but even as an anime only, I would have loved it still because the characters, the storytelling, the themes, the perfect voice acting, and the casting that they chose to do, and the art, the animation, the music.
これ毒です。
God, oh my god. Best anime of the season, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Except from maybe Frieren, because I don't want anyone to kill me. And I've seen you guys on Reddit. And in my own house, I'll let you know that. And maybe Solo Leveling if they could actually post weekly. But I do understand there's issues, I do understand. But past the mega pink glasses of a manga reader that is blindsided by amazing animation and amazing story, there is always something missing in terms of immersion. There always is. I just know it, honestly. I just know it. So I'm going to make a narrative immersion score, which I'm going to explain in a second, and that will be the way that I figure out what. And if you have time, check out my description. Thank you. Of course, it's gonna be spoilers ahead. It should be pretty obvious, but yeah. So how do I make a narrative immersion score? Well, narrative immersion is a concept that explains the way that we are engaging with our fictional media. Narrative immersion can be split into two subsections: transportation and identification, and this has been studied and found out by multiple different types of psychological research, including my own. So I made a narrative immersion measure from looking at my own study that I've made to kind of quite easily and subjectively, to be fair, is subjective, make a score which will determine how immersive something is. And just to say, transportation can be broken down into inner world, outer world, abilities/skills, interesting events, attention, and then identification can be broken down into MCs, side characters, villains/conflicts, motifs/themes, and emotionally engaging. So yeah, that's what we're working with. So what did I think? How immersive is the Apothecary Diaries anime? Well, I gave it a 9.25 out of 10. Yes, I did tell myself I would never do something where it's like 2.5 or 7.5 because that's so excessive. That is so excessive. But I've tried, and that's my bad. Just to compare it to other things that I've reviewed so far, well, Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, I gave that a 9. Then there was Vinland Saga season 2, which I also gave a 9, and then there was Oshinoko, which I gave an 8. And so I actually think that it makes sense. Anywho, let's get into it. So you'll notice if you've been to nursery and or what do they call it, kindergarten, preschool, I don't know, if you know how to count to 10, you'll notice that 9.25 is not 10. So obviously there are some things missing, bits and pieces, and I'm going to go into that right now so you understand. There's really only 2 things missing, but I'm going to talk about them in detail. The first thing that was missing was the outside world. So I rated the outside world, which is just a part of the transportation half of the scale, I rated that at 0.5 because I felt like there was too much missing for it to be a 1, which is what I would have normally given it to make it a full point. Essentially, the partial lack of detail about the outside world is appropriate, but also undesirable sometimes. It's lacking. And I think these times are quite balanced, which is why I'm giving it 0.5. Half of the time, I really do think that the outside world is adequately talked about. I mean, we're thinking about the beginning, for instance, when they introduced the court, when they introduced the district, all the differences between the places are iterated and explained. But then we get to all the ceremonies and the events that keep happening throughout the season, and suddenly the world feels a bit small to me. Honestly, I feel a bit claustrophobic, and that's the missing 0.5 that I'm talking about. And the reason why I feel like sometimes it does feel a bit claustrophobic, we feel like we are being a bit boxed into a place without knowing the context of what is happening outside of that and what people are doing outside of that and why that's important. Part of that is because of the political climate, you know, the national knowledge. So Mao Mao doesn't really want to know much of anything about anything or anyone's plights, and so she often tries to avoid that. But there are some things that everyone should know. You know, there are some things that should be talked about, should be mentioned, should be discussed. The goings of the country. How does the emperor rule? What are the other countries doing? What are the other empires doing? What regular festivals occur that aren't starring the concubines? Another reason why the story feels a bit claustrophobic half the time, at least for me, is the district. Whenever she goes home, we don't really see too much outside of the pleasure district or the house or the home, I guess, she lives in. We don't know much about any of the people there, just the common people that go around and do stuff. stuff. I understand that Mao Mao is recluse, but we don't even get her bumping into someone. We barely got someone on a stool. I mean, that was a good scene, but I feel like there was so much more that they should have given, so much more. Like, we should have got a story within the district, you know, that would have really opened up the world a bit more. We don't know if she has any friends outside. I mean, again, it's to be assumed she doesn't. How are most people educated in the pleasure district, and how are most people educated outside of that? You know, we don't know, because, you know, this is old China, it's not old Japan. Anime watchers aren't aware of this, and anime watchers are the main audience for this. Of course, it was made by an animation studio based in Japan, and primarily will be watched in Japanese, listening to Japanese voice actors. And so these anime watchers probably don't know any of this information about how people would live at that time, and they need to know. I mean, anime watchers don't even know how to brush their teeth, for God's sake. They don't know, okay? They don't. And one last thing about how it feels a bit claustrophobic is you can't really imagine how someone who isn't rich or isn't poor lives either. I mean, you think about maybe the warriors and stuff, and they're somewhat in the middle, but outside of that, we don't really get any sense of anything in between. And I mean, AKA, I just hypothetically, I would like to know if I wanted to be isekai there so I could be Mao Mao's best friend, how would I go about doing that? The second main thing that brought it back from being a 10, you know, because we got 0.5 deducted from the 10 because of the outside world lacking as well, but there's still 25. It's 9.25. It's not 9.5. So obviously there's a bit more missing. There's a 0.25 missing. If you know about your decimal places, that means that the second thing that's the problem is something that I regrettably, begrudgingly rated 0.75, even though I should be rating things 0.5 because it's cleaner, it's nicer. Honestly, I should probably be rating this out of 100, but I've already started. I'm a stubborn girl. I'm not gonna go back. Can't lie to you. But so yeah, basically, whether it was attention grabbing, and I literally, okay, so this is such a small thing, but it's substantial enough for me to actually bring it back because there was no overarching plot, and that made it harder to pay attention just a little. It was basically like going out in UK weather without a coat or umbrella. Like, there was nothing to shade me, to protect me, to keep me engaged. So the real big reason why I'm saying no overarching plot brings back how attention grabbing it could be is because of the early 20s episodes, so like 21, 22, whatever, when everything was coming to a head. So, you know, we had the whole thing of the event, the major festival where Jinshi was going on the stage and everything, and then it came crashing down and everything, and Mao Mao had to save him, and it felt like everything was coming together, like everything was interconnected, intertwined, and there was some big plot that was gonna happen, some big device and some reasoning, some meaning behind everything. And then the anime decided, hey, let's just forget that happened, let's grow some roses. And I was like, what? I didn't actually read it up to that point in the manga, so I was all intrigued, I was excited, I was like, damn, what's going to happen, what's happening? This is a big plot, we're finally going to learn about the wider world, we're going to see some military meetings, we're going to see something interesting. But we just made roses the next day, and then we played some Go, and there's backstories and stuff. It's all interesting, but the timing was really frustrating because it was like building up, explosion, Mama gets hurt, and then literally nothing from that. I'm sure second season, the manga, I don't know, there'll be some explanation for it, but I don't know what the writer was thinking with that. Like, maybe it was, I guess it was a teaser for the future to keep you engaged once a lot of the personal dramas were solved, and same with the romance, of course. I mean, that's never gonna happen. That stuff is gonna be kept on lock. And I love the romance. I don't think I said it, but it's super not tacky, and I love that about it. Like, it feels so authentic and natural and not cringy, and just very nice and just smooth, and also female protagonists. I love that. This anime is so good. Like, it's so good, and it has none of the red flags that it could have had. But the point is, the overarching plot is not giving what it was supposed to give. It feels like we were going to be introduced to the overarching plot, and then they just was like, JK, no. Like, I was so confused. It was just disappointing, and it made it harder to transition just back to the episodic type of episodes that we were having beforehand, but that they just forced us to go back to. So essentially, what was missing? The outside world. We should have known much more about the outside world. There was many opportunities, and they just didn't show us more. And the second thing is just how attention grabbing it is. There was just a bit, the overarching plot would have made it 100%. I would have given it a 1 for that. It would have really tied everything beautifully together and made it feel like it meant something, but it didn't. That's my review. That's my score. That was my idea of what was missing in terms of narrative immersion. What do you think though? Let me know. If you like this video, then you can subscribe. Check out my other videos in the psychology reviews playlist. Then I say quickly goodbye. Jannyeong, Jannyeong, Jannyeong. You probably should read the manga, because I enjoyed the manga. Listen, manga and anime are very similar. They did really well with the adaptation. I can't lie to you. And also the first opening slaps. Genjanai, Genjanai. I got that shit. Ooh, I downloaded that. Ooh. Listen to the first anime opening of the fucking Apothecary Diaries. It's good. Mama, if you're seeing this, I'll come to past China for you. For you, Mao Mao. For you, I will. For you.